Week 2 of the high school football season had a lot. Think about rivalry game wins. We saw a Hail Mary to win a ball game late. We had field dedications and a whole lot more. And we will talk about those things and more as we get going here on the Under the Lights podcast presented by KEYSYS. KEYSYS, you're going to be hearing a lot about them throughout this season because they're a presenting sponsor of our Under the Lights football coverage this fall. These guys right here, AI solutions tailored for your business, KEYSYS.io to check them out. All right, so let's get started. We're at Hewitt-Trussville Stadium today previewing our Week 3 game of the week. Vestavia Hills coming to town to take on the Hewitt-Trussville Huskies, and we're going to bring on a special guest to preview the action. All right, time to talk about our Week 3 game of the week. It's going to be right here at Hewitt-Trussville Stadium. I'm joined by Hewitt-Trussville head coach Josh Floyd today. Going to be a big night on Friday night?
Yeah, it is, man. I think we have a big crowd. I know Vestavia will bring a great group, and look forward to a great night of high school football.
Yeah, what is it like when you start region play with such a tough game like that? You find out how good you are, don't you?
It's tough, man. It's tough. I think our first few region games are probably as tough as anybody in the state. So, you just have to go 1 week at a time, and that's what makes our region tough. You can't ever look ahead or anything like that. Obviously, playing a team like Vestavia, that's a really good football team, and they've been going to the playoffs the last several years. So it's going to be a really tough ball game for us, but our kids are excited about it.
Seemed like last year's game was one of those that you saw a lot from your kids. Like, it wasn't easy, but they found a way to kind of put together that game-winning drive at the end and really kind of set you guys off on the right foot.
Yeah, it was a wild game last year. We felt like we played pretty poorly in a lot of ways, but found a way to win the game. And at the end of the day, that's the point. I do think our guys showed a lot of grit last year, finding a way to win.
Yeah.
We ended up scoring twice in the last few minutes of the game. We hadn't scored almost the whole game. So, but that's football, man. You got to you have to play your best in those moments, and you got to find ways to win. Yeah. And again, I always tell our guys that every week, man. We don't care what the score is. Whatever, it could be a shootout. It could be low scoring.
Yep.
We're just trying to end up with a W at the end of the game.
Awesome. Well, let's talk a little bit about the Huskies so far. 2-0 start. But one thing we saw last week, quarterback Zach Benedict goes down with an injury. Right. What's his status? How's he doing?
Yeah, well, he's doing okay. I think Zach's a guy, it's kind of a week-to-week thing right now. We're not quite sure what that looks like completely. Unfortunately, we've had the injury bug the first few weeks of the season. So, hopefully we'll get some guys back, soon. But, I think the first few weeks have gone well besides that. I think our guys have played well. I think we've played with a lot of intensity. And I think we've shown flashes of being good on both sides of the football. So, definitely room for improvement. But again, we don't take any victory for granted. Yeah, we're excited to be 2-0.
So does that mean we get a freshman quarterback on Friday night?
We'll see. We'll see, man. We've got some ideas for this Friday. So, we'll see how it all plays out.
Yeah. So how about your defense so far? I remember we were kind of joking in some of the interviews I did. That was 3 straight regular season shutouts. Gadsden City only got 7 last week. But what have you seen from this unit that was so good last year? It looks like they're playing pretty good so far, too.
Yeah, our defense played well. They really have, And, last week, we had to make a few adjustments, and guys did that. That's part of, coaches make adjustments, but kids have to make those adjustments. Yeah. They're the ones playing. It's players' game, and so these guys have to go out there. And so I think we've got some really good leadership, a lot of seniors on defense that have played. Some guys are 3-year starters, and so I think that matters, and I think it matters in region play. And so, we're hoping that helps us throughout the entire year.
What have you seen from this Vestavia team so far? 2 really impressive wins, especially the one last week against Auburn.
Sure.
They look like they're playing at a pretty high level right now.
Oh, yeah. Vestavia's a really good football team. Rob does a great job with those guys every year. They give you a lot of fits on both sides of the ball. It's not just normal conventional stuff that you see. They do a great job of putting people in conflict defensively. From a defensive standpoint, it's hard to defend what they do. They do a lot of different things. The quarterback's really good. Yeah. The Taft kid is a really, really good football player. I would say he's probably one of the best Qs in the state in 7A. And I think he's proven that. The first few weeks, he's a really good football player, and that he has other weapons around him. Defensively, they do a lot of things. They move around a lot and give you a lot of different looks. And so again, it's not an easy game to prepare for because schematically what they do on both sides of the ball presents a pretty big challenge. But they've played really good football the first few weeks, and they're just like us, trying to get that first region win.
Yeah. So for fans coming out this Friday night, they will see something a little bit different. Y'all have had a game on it, but brand new turf out here. Mm-hmm. How nice is it to have a fresh field like this?
Oh, turf's been great, man. It really has, man. Kids love it. They've gotten used to it and everything. So I think it looks great, but it plays great. We think it's the best playing surface out there. myself and Lance Walker, our athletic director, man, we looked at a lot of turf fields over the past several months, and so we were able to land on this. So we're excited about this. Our turf before needed we needed new turf about 2 or 3 years probably before we were able to change it. So glad we got that done, and it's been fun this year so far.
You ever think about when you guys got here 12 years ago, and now you just kind of look around and you've got things like the pavilion over there and the new turf and just all the improvements that this community, this school system has continued to push for. That's got to feel good to know you've got that support.
It does. I mean, it's a big deal. I think that's what any football coach wants in high school football. You want to feel the support of the community and feel it, from the administration, because you're just limited what you can do as a coach if you don't have that support. And it doesn't matter. I mean, X's and O's are overrated sometimes. Yeah. They matter some, obviously, but you can be the best X and O guys in the country, and if you don't have support, from the administration at the school, and people don't believe in what you're doing in the community, it really doesn't matter. And so, I think starting with Dr. Martin and our school board, in our city, I think they've poured a lot into this thing, and we're excited about that. I mean, not just this, they got a brand new softball facility, probably the best one in the entire state. And so I think we're going to keep doing those things here in Trussville. I think the place is going to keep growing. We still have some other things we need to do, in football, but I've been really happy with where we're at, and I think the future is really, really good here.
Awesome. Well, game of the week this Friday night, Vestavia Hills paying a visit here to Hewitt-Trussville. It's going to be a fun night. Good way to start off Region 3 play. Coach, thanks for joining us.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Big thanks to Coach Floyd for joining us for a few minutes to talk about the game of the week. But we've got one more game to talk about before we dive into the Friday games. There's a Thursday night game this week. Briarwood is heading to Legion Field to take on Ramsey. It's the start of region play for both squads. This Briarwood team has really had a tough start. They play 7A Oak Mountain, 6A Homewood. They really are testing themselves early here, and they're going to hope that it pays off as the schedule gets into region play. This Ramsey team also 0-2, so one team's going to get their first win of the year. Briarwood hopes it's them. So the Lions, I'll be out there Thursday night to check them out once again, and we will see if they can get their first win of the year. Time for Friday. I'll be right here on Friday night on the sidelines of Hewitt-Trussville Stadium. It's going to be a fun night because this is a big game against two really good teams. And when Coach Floyd was over here, we teased a little bit about the potential for a freshman quarterback for Hewitt-Trussville. Jack Floyd has gotten a lot of run in the first two games for the Huskies when the game got out of hand in the first one, and then in the second game last week when Zach Benedict went down with an injury, Jack Floyd got his chance, and he played pretty well both times. So as Coach mentioned, we probably will see a lot of Jack Floyd, but there may be some other things in the mix as well. Hewitt-Trussville's always got a creative offensive game plan, and we will probably see that on display against the Rebels on Friday night. So a lot to look forward to. Coach Floyd also mentioned the play of Vestavia quarterback Charlie Taft. He's been unstoppable so far through 2 games. Even last week in their big win over Auburn, he had 100 yards through the air, over 100 yards on the ground as well, and a couple of touchdowns. Grayson Harper was everywhere for the Vestavia offense. Look for him to have a big game again as well. Carson Purdy had 2 touchdowns on the ground. This Vestavia team is looking really good so far. Their defense is playing elite ball as well. So the game of the week is going to be a lot of fun on Friday night, and I'm excited to see how that shakes out. All right, a few more games. We will talk about the Homewood Patriots now. They're going to host Mortimer Jordan to get started in their region as well. The Patriots, we've talked about it, coming into the year with high expectations, and they have done nothing to disappoint in that regard so far. A 27-0 win over Briarwood last week, just very matter-of-fact from that offense, and that defense just didn't allow Briarwood to get anything going. And we'll see if they can make it 3-0 this week against Mortimer Jordan. Our Homewood coverage this season brought to you by The Edge. If you haven't been to The Edge, it's a vibrant space for food, fun, and community right in Homewood, right off Green Springs. They've got live events each week. Visit their website at theedgehomewood.com. Right across town, John Carroll trying to get back on track after a couple of tough games to start the season. John Carroll, last weekend was a really cool weekend for this program. They hosted St. Michael. It was the Bishop's Bowl. They dedicated their field, brand new turf, named after Pat Sullivan. They honored the 1973 state championship team. A really cool moment for the program, even though the game didn't go that well in a 49-28 loss to St. Michael, coached by Phillip Rivers. That team is going to be a really, really good 4A team this year. So we'll see if John Carroll can rebound this week against Carver Birmingham. This is a region game for John Carroll, getting their region slate started. But even though they're 0-2, they're facing a Carver team that we don't know a whole lot about. This Carver team has not played a game yet, which is very bizarre through 2 weeks. But John Carroll will get a look at the Rams. So we'll see if the Cavs can make those gains, those improvements from playing two tough opponents to start off the year. We'll see if the Cavs can't get their first win on Friday night at home. And our John Carroll coverage this year, all year long, brought to you by Barlow Wealth Advisory Group. We help people be successful in life and business. Barlow Wealth Advisory Group, go check them out, barlow-wag.com. Now, as for the Mountain Brook Spartans, we had talked about this game against Parker last week and how they really were looking forward to getting another chance at the defending state champs. They played them twice last year and felt they had opportunities in both of them, but let them slip away. And unfortunately for the Spartans, last week's 27-11 loss to Parker is much of the same. Mountain Brook got in the red zone 3 times in the first half, came away with just 3 total points, and Parker was able to pull away after that. So a little disappointing for the Spartans, but they've got one more non-region tune-up before they get into the meat of their schedule. Mountain Brook will host Hueytown this Friday night. This Hueytown team had an open date last week, lost to Clay Chalkville in week 1. So we will see. This will be a good opponent for Mountain Brook to really gauge where they're at as they get into region play following this week. But we also want to make sure that you know about our friends at Gun Dermatology, 2 locations at Mountain Brook. They'll take care of all of your skincare needs there. They are just terrific friends and partners to us in our coverage of Mountain Brook football. All right, moving along. Hoover. The Bucks are going to get region play started, Class 7A Region 3, just like Hewitt and Vestavia. They'll be at the Met on Friday night, taking on Hillcrest Tuscaloosa. The Bucks were really tough last week. I think even though Hoover was outgained by Spain Park in the contest, this Hoover defense has just so many potential game changers on it that they can bend but really not break, and it not really feel like it was that close to breaking. They've just got guys along the defensive line. They've got guys at linebacker. They've got guys in the secondary that just make life really difficult and challenging for the opposition, and you never know when they're going to make a play to change the game. And even last week, to seal the game, wide receiver, athlete, do-it-all guy Jonah Winston made the interception to end the game and effectively seal it for the Bucks. So we'll see. I mean, I think they're the better team on paper against Hillcrest. What I want to see from the Bucks is that offense going to continue to progress. Quarterback Caleb Freeman, just his second start for the Bucks last week. He threw 3 touchdowns, was in control. Now we've got to see a little bit more from the running game for the Bucks. I know they're a little bit banged up in that room, but Paxton Weatherly was the one that made the biggest impact. So they're still searching for the right guy to be kind of that home run hitter that's really going to be that bell cow for this Hoover offense. But like we said, that defense is elite, and I think they will take care of business against Hillcrest on Friday night. Our Hoover football coverage brought to you this season by our friends at Southlake Orthopedics. Less pain, more living. All right, a few more games on the slate. We'll go down to Shelby County real quick. Chelsea getting region play started at home against an old foe in Pelham. High-scoring game last week for the Hornets. They beat Wetumpka 40-30, probably a little bit closer than they wanted it to be, maybe a little bit more high-scoring than they had hoped it would be. But the Hornets are 2-0, getting off to another strong start like they did last year. They will hope to continue that against a Pelham team that is going to have to figure out how to rebound. Wow, that Hail Mary victory that Oak Mountain got against them last week. So that'll be really interesting to see how the Panthers can rebound. Speaking of that loss that Pelham had last week, Oak Mountain, wow, they've got to come down off of this 30-29 win. And that final play, if you haven't seen it, I encourage you to go find it. The last play of the game, Charlie Vaccarella throws it deep. Colby King catches it about the 3-yard line, gets into the end zone, but then they all go crazy and get an excessive celebration penalty, which forces the extra point attempt from kicker Josh Renfro to be 15 yards further than it otherwise would have been. He says, no problem, guys. I got this. He drills it. Oak Mountain goes to 2-0 in a lot more adventurous fashion than they had probably hoped for. But, hey, 2-0. And that's a great thing for Oak Mountain because they will head to Prattville looking to get a region win right off the bat here in Class 7A Region 3. This Prattville program, we expect them to be much improved under new head coach Bobby Carr. They beat Stanhill Belmore last week pretty convincingly after losing their first game of the season against Pike Road. So Prattville's 1-1, hosting Oak Mountain. The Eagles will make the trip south and see if they can get off on the right foot in region play. And then one final game to talk about, Clay Chalkville playing host to Pell City. The Cougars have been unbelievable the first 2 games of the year. They drilled Hueytown. They blistered Ramsey. And they will look to get region play started off on the right foot against a Pell City team that is, on the rise a little bit, but Clay Chalkville is way too strong on paper. And that's all of our games for this upcoming Friday night in the Under the Lights coverage area. It's going to be a whole lot of fun. I'm excited to be out here at Hewitt-Trussville Stadium. Beautiful facility. And when we talk about our game of the week, I always want to give a shout out to our friends at Hoover Steaks and Wines, doing a lot of stuff to help us with the podcast this year as well. Gourmet grocery store, so go check them out. So be sure you're following along our channels all week long. We've got tons of content, tons of stuff throughout the week, leading up to game day, on game day, at X, on Under Lights 365. Search Under the Lights on Facebook, and then on YouTube. Search Under the Lights, find us there. We have the weekly podcast, the post-game show on Friday nights as well, and then we'll drop a link for the Saturday morning newsletter in the description as well. So for this episode of the Under the Lights podcast presented by KEYSYS, thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.